See the title right here? It's called Annales de l'Ecole libre des sciences politiques by Ecole libre des sciences politiques, published in 1886. We're going to be on page 2. On the left-hand side, page 2, it says right here at the top. Zoom in a little more. I started copying right here where it says à sa vie, and I went all the way down, and I stopped right here where it says avec les judaquais. So I started at à sa vie and stopped at les judaquais. À sa vie right here, les judaquais. And it reads, Savi, capital of the state of Judah, was home to several trading posts where European goods were mainly used to purchase slaves. At the time, the black slave trade was rife. Business activity necessitated the installation of vast warehouses on the slave coast, and France, England, and Portugal were prompted to build forts to prevent looting of the stores and ensure the safety of their nationals. The French fort was built in 1671. It was built after the Fort San João Baptista Ayuda, where the Portuguese maintained a small garrison, a reminder of a preponderant position they have since given up exercising. Around these works, nuclei of population were formed, which later became the three-quarters or solemns of the town of Wida, or Judah. Long before the construction of these forts, the French were trading with the Judaics. So a couple things I wanted to point out about this one. It says the French fort was built in 1671, and it was built after this Portuguese fort. But at the bottom it says, long before the construction of these forts, the French were trading with the Judaics. So we can say that at least since before 1671, the French were trading with the Judaics. I thought that was interesting because Europeans ultimately ended up purchasing black Jews as slaves from Judah, as we're going to see as we read on. But I just thought it was interesting to see how relations with the Europeans, or at least the French, were somewhat amicable earlier on. The last thing I wanted to point out is how this is yet another French source referring to these black Jews as Judaics. The French seem to be very familiar with these people and who they were. They were constantly referring to these black Jews in Judah as Judaics. They knew they were Jews. Now here's the next book, Histoire de L'Académie, published in 1768 by l'Académie Royale des Sciences, whatever. We're going to be on page 420 right here at the top. Well, it actually starts right here at the bottom where it says Je ne m'arrêtais. That's where I started to copy. And at 420, I copied all of this right here. So, bottom of 419 where it says Je ne m'arrêtais. And all of this, and it finishes with principal comptoir, or comptoir. Je ne m'arrêtais, principal comptoir. It says, I will focus only on the name of this kingdom, which is Judah or Judah, and by corruption, Fida, or rather Vida. So it's talking about the kingdom of Judah on the slave coast. This name can only have been given to it by Jews, and not by modern Jews who have not yet penetrated it. According to P. Labat, it can therefore only have been given by very ancient Jews, i.e. by the factors of Solomon, who gave it this name to mark that they had their main trading post there. So I included this source to show that this is more corroboration and confirmation that these black Jews in Judah were not converts. Modern Jews did not go in there and convert them. And like I said earlier, I am not aware of any sources that talk about ancient Israelites going into West Africa and converting native black Africans. And like I also said, or like I believe I also said, what makes more sense? Well, I haven't put it like this yet, but I touched on this earlier. What would make more sense? We already read sources, and we already know there are sources saying that the ancient Israelites were black people. We read at the beginning originally they were dark-skinned with woolly hair. They were mistaken for Ethiopians or Cushites a lot of the time. We read a source that said the ancient Jews were black at the very beginning. What would make more sense? That these black Jews in West Africa, we also read tons of sources talking about the migration of the Israelites and Jews through Africa into West Africa. So they migrated through Africa into West Africa. They were black, etc. So what would make more sense? These black Jews in West Africa who have Judaic customs being the descendants of those black Jews and Israelites who migrated through Africa to West Africa? Or somebody came and converted them? What would make more sense? You know what I'm saying? Just, use your brain. People are going to hate either way, but there's too much evidence to, make silly arguments about them being converts or, any other argument. The evidence does not point in that direction, especially when you get into the old books and you start reading and putting everything together. All right. So we know for a fact they weren't converted by modern Jews who had not even gone into that location. And we know that the ancient Israelites and ancient Jews were black and that they migrated through Africa to West Africa. So the only logical and rational explanation is that these black Jews in West Africa during this time period were the descendants of those same black Jews and Israelites who migrated there.